I was from a family of Robin Gray voting and loving Tasmanians who lived on the mainland and who viewed the Franklin Dam as essential and as the protesters simply mainland blow-ins. Every night, watching the TV in my living room in suburban Melbourne, though my ears were hearing about the state's rights and energy needs, my eyes were seeing passion and commitment and amazing beauty. I raced out and bought my very first record, Let the Franklin Flow. I used to lay on my bed and listen to it relentlessly, the volume down so my mum didn't know. I was 11. The other time was September 11, 2000 at the World Economic Forum demonstration in Melbourne. Emotionally, though, I was elated, as you are when you're part of a people power experience. I was also demoralised about thinking about how our leaders were failing us. And physically, I was nursing broken ribs after an unfortunate police charge. And I was sitting in a group on an off-ramp to the casino when Bob spoke. I heard a political leader speak to me and my fellow young demonstrators with respect and support and with grace. He made us feel that our cause was right, and he thanked us. He thanked us. Whilst the Herald Sun front page that day read, "We salute our police," after the night before they used their horses to trample sitting demonstrators, Bob thanked us for our courage, our conviction, and our peacefulness under extreme pressure and provocation. I wonder sometimes if Bob truly understands the level of love and gratitude that my generation has for him. And I hope you do, Bob. Bob has shaped a generation of political, social and environmental leaders. He has breathed life into a movement and kept its body fit and his mind sharp and its heart open. As a member of the next generation of political leaders, what I aspire to, and I guess what we all aspire to in our lives, is what Bob has lived: to act with humility, to see compassion as strength, to speak with conviction, to see truth and name it, to see all people as worthy of respect. In short, to be human. Tonight, I feel privileged to be able to say thank you, Bob, and celebrate you and your journey with 400 of your friends. So please show your appreciation and welcome Bob Brown.
Thank you, Simon. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen. I almost said Mayor Simon, but I'm getting ahead of myself, aren't I? What a lovely introduction, and what great warmth here tonight in this, they call it winter, in Northern Rivers. Paul and I are enjoying our few days here. I'll talk a little bit about what's been happening in a moment. First, I wanted to thank Ian and Ali for the warm hospitality. We're staying at their place, and I don't really mind the 15-foot snake that's next to the front steps. And the 16-foot one that's in the bedroom behind the curtain. I guess it helps keep the place a bit warmer. Better than Ratsack, I'm told. But it's lovely to be here and to be able to thank you for all the inspiration I've gotten from you. And indeed, us like-minded people right across this country over the last 16 years that I've been in the Senate. I'm a bird out of the cage. And also to be here with Mayor Jan from Byron Bay, who's been a great friend of mine for so many years now, and he's obviously done such a great job in this region and will continue to do so for many years to come. There's so many people I'd love to thank, but Jan, what a terrific role model for all of us. I'm 67, and I did biology when I was at university in medical school, and I realised that despite the inherent feeling we all have when things are going well, in particular, that life's beautiful and this is going to keep going and going, the reality is that's not true. And the exceptionalism which strikes all of us, that maybe we're going to be the exception, also doesn't work. I find when I look in the mirror and see those wrinkles of wisdom increasing, that counterbalances each morning when I hear a clunk and think, oh, there goes a few more neurons as the day begins. But I'm very happy with where I'm at in life, and I want to at the outset tell you about my secret formula there, because just before I got into the Senate in 1996, oh, by the way, I just heard on the news coming tonight that Gore Vidal had died, and the Foreign Minister Carr was expressing a few words for him. What an eminent person of great rambunctious good sense was Gore. I wasn't the least offended when he refused to come to Australia while ever John Howard was Prime Minister. I thought, you can choose your own place to go, and he chose not to come here at that particular time. But spent 10 years in the Tasmanian Parliament, and it was there was a lot going on there. We had the Franklin campaign, and of course Ian and so many others of you came down to help rescue the river. I've met a couple here tonight, and that's a case of a river flowing free because people cared. 2 weeks ago, the US Outsider magazine, which is preeminent of adventure magazines in the US, listed the Franklin River on a list of 10 of the world's great whitewater rafting experiences as number one, ahead of every other river on the planet. And I want to thank everybody who came to the Franklin, who voted for the Franklin, who's put on no damn stickers for the Franklin, who played Let the Franklin Flow, as Simon was just saying. Yes, I played it more often than I'll admit to too. The song that went to number 4 on the hit parade at the time. But it was a case in point for those disheartening times when people think it's all too tough. In 1982, when Robin Gray, the Whispering Bulldozer, won the Tasmanian election, and I stood for that election and lost, as did every other save the Franklin Greens candidate, it seemed that nothing was going to save the Franklin. He sent the bulldozers in on the 17th of July 1982 into the Franklin Valley. Both political parties were in favour of the dam. How unusual, that lineup. Both Houses of Parliament were, all 3 Tasmanian newspapers. The churches were silent at the time. The unions were in favour, except for the brave few folk in the Electrical Trades Union. The Chamber of Manufacturers was. We went up to Canberra and appealed to Prime Minister Fraser, and he said, go back, it's a state issue, don't bother me. We took an action in the High Court and they threw us out on the first day. So it looked completely hopeless, but 18 months later, that same High Court, with a change of government, thanks to the voters of Australia, the Hawke government came in, by a vote of 4-3, declared that the federal government had the right under the World Heritage Treaty and the obligation to protect the Franklin River wilderness and the whole of the southwest wilderness, and the dam works therefore stopped after 70 million had been spent on those dams. And now, these days, the West Coast has its economic and employment problems in Tasmania, but it would have had 32 jobs basically to work the computers had they built the 4 dams that were going to flood the river from end to end. As it is, there's 120 to 200,000 tourists coming to see and thrill to that Wild Rivers region, bringing jobs and prosperity and a smile to the face of many West Coast Tasmanians, and indeed many Tasmanians. And I went into Parliament as the one I got a count back on the 17th day I came out of jail, and the next day went into Parliament because Norm Sanders, the good Norm Sanders, who lived here for a while, he's a little further up the coast now, had vacated his seat in disgust at the treatment, particularly of some of the women who had been arrested. And on a countback onto the Tasmanian system, I went in. And boy, it wasn't the friendliest place I've been in. And at the end of the year, Michael Field, who was the Labor member, who was later to become Premier, turned to me at the row for the Christmas turkey and said, "Well, Bob, you've got nowhere to go now but down." And I've often thought of that along the line. If this is down, I'm very happy with down. So there I found, after being in Parliament for a while, that there was a lot of other things. The forests were being destroyed, the seas were being marauded. They're bringing that massive trawler from overseas to take 18,000 tonnes of fish out of the ocean, and even the Fisheries Department in Canberra says, oh, it's not going to have an effect. The fisher people in Tasmania at least have the common sense to say, no, if you take out of an ecosystem 18,000 tonnes of protein a year, that's going to affect the food chain in both directions. But we were able to, as we went to 1989, then 1995, 5 companions bring in legislation for death with dignity. It didn't pass at the time, and it's still on the drawing boards. Do you know 80% of Australians in every opinion poll since the 1980s believe that we have a right to ask our doctors to help us to a pain-free death if we're terminally ill, no hope of remission, suffering, and want to put an end to it before things get worse for ourselves and our families. And yet, there's no parliament in Australia has passed legislation on that. Many countries overseas and states in the US, most recently the very conservative Washington state through a referendum, have passed death with dignity laws. But our parliament and Cardinal Pell think it's wrong, and therefore the 80% of people are denied that right. A bit similar to same-sex marriage. It's coming down the line, equality in marriage, but it isn't there yet. And that brings me back to my secret for staying in politics. In 1993, I got out of the state parliament. I got my fellow Greens together and said, I cannot stand one more day of this. I've run my course. And Christine Milne was elected the new leader of the Tasmanian Greens. And I took 3 years out, and in that time, travelled a bit, looked around, got over that feeling of I can't stand this for one more day, and got talked into standing for the Senate on the condition that I could still protest on the forest, which the panel down in Tasmania allowed as a trade-off. But on the campaign was a fellow called Paul Thomas, and he, on the last day of the campaign, I usually took off on election afternoon and went bushwalking just to wait for the night and the usual microphones and so on. And I said, he was cleaning up at the campaign centre, and I said, well, I'm going off for a bushwalk. And he said, I'll come with you. And I thought, oh, you know. But anyway, he knew a much closer beautiful place, the Northwest Bay River on the back of Mount Wellington, and we went and sat on the rocks and talked about life and so on. And a few weeks or so later, there was a tap on my door one morning, and I got on my dressing gown and went up, and here was Paul with a bag of hot croissants. And I had the jam and the butter and the coffee, so we sat there and had breakfast, and the croissants got to me. And anyway, I have to tell you that the love and companionship, and Paul has, through those 16 years, suddenly saying I can't get home, suddenly saying I can't come to the family birthday or whatever, suddenly saying no, I won't be there for your badminton finals, suddenly saying, Paul, I've got to take the next 2 weeks, yes, we're having a holiday, but I've got to write this paper or that report or something else. Never once complained. Always been there to give me a terrific companionship in life. That's Paul. That's my love in life. And thank you, Paul. And I'm, besides that, been in there for 16 years. There was 2 of us when we first got there. Dee Margetts from Western Australia and myself. Dee lost the next election, and I was there for a while by myself. And then we had 2 of us again, then 3 of us, then 4 of us, then 5, 6, and now there were 10 in the Parliament. And I'll tell you why. It's because people are looking for an alternative to the small-minded, venal pettiness and short-sightedness of politics. And we Greens have a simple dictum, which is, in every decision that's made, we should be thinking, will our grandchildren thank us for this? And if you can't say yes to that, you shouldn't be doing it. If you're not even sure about it, you shouldn't be doing it. But it is a revolutionary question to be asking in politics, where everything is short-term, me now, let them look after it later. And I'm out of the cage, but I'm got plenty of time now to talk about green philosophy, the 4 pillars of green, of social justice and fairness. Wouldn't it be great if we did just, I know I've spoken about this before, if we just spent 1/10 of the armament spending on the planet on getting the 500 million children on Earth who can't get enough food or clean water or a school to go to, getting them all those 3 things. Everybody on the planet would vote for it, but we don't do it because of the way politics is set at the moment. And I'm wanting to talk a lot more to young folk because they inspire me. We're on this moving footway in life, as I was talking about earlier, and I can see the end coming up, and I'm going to have to step off down there and look back. That's a bit mind concentrating, you know, but then step back and look around and look at the bright, brilliant young women and men coming onto that footway at the other end of it, and it's just such a wonderful feeling. And I get that, not just here, but whether I'm in Kalgoorlie or Townsville or Launceston or Port Augusta, it doesn't matter. It's the same, and I've been running into such people here tonight. And we tend to think of things happening too slowly. But if you look at geological or even biological time, they're happening very fast. And the question is, are we going to make it as a human species on the planet? Are we going to be able to save ourselves from the onrush of materialism and its inevitable destructiveness? Listening to a convert like Dick Smith out at the Bellingen Energy Festival on Sunday, saying that everybody has to understand that in a finite system you can't keep extracting resources at a growing rate. It's simple lunacy. And yet that lunacy is at the core of political and business drive in our community. That on this one finite planet, which is a set limit of water, of land, of clean air, and of course the living fabric of the planet, and that currently we human beings are consuming 120% of the renewable living capability of the planet. That's currently. We're taking more than it can replace. And here we are, 2.5 billion people when I came onto the planet, now 7 billion, heading for 10 billion by the second half of this century. That's a 30% growth rate between now and then. But my friend Paul Gilding, who's written about the great breakdown coming in the future, says, well, yes, population growth important, but on current consumption trends, if the rest of the world catches up with us and we keep growing the way we want to in terms of consumption of resources, there'll be a 300% growth in the use of the Earth's resources between now and the end of the century. And it's not there. It just simply isn't there. And we haven't got any other planets that we can hook into and turn into what we're turning the planet into. Now that's all very daunting reality. But the big question is, are we going to have a cataclysm before we wake up to ourselves, if indeed that capability is there? Or are we going to use our God-given intelligence to turn this around by simply learning to get on with each other on the planet, and importantly to get on with the planet? And I repeat my favourite little story, wake-up story, from David Suzuki, who told me when we were travelling in Tassie not long ago that he went to the supermarket in Vancouver and it had a sign in the window saying animals not allowed in this store. So he got in his car and drove to a place where he could shop. And we are a big mammal. And there's 7 billion of us, and the herd is growing very rapidly. And we're consuming at an increasing rate. And we know what, in a finite system. So we know what that means. It means breakdown. However, we also have, so far as we know, we are the it in the universe. Now here's a universe of trillions of planets. Can't imagine that. Use the figure, but the astronomers keep increasing this figure. But there's trillions, thousands of billions of planets out there, and we're one of them. And there's at least hundreds of billions of planets which have the potential for life. They've currently discovered 6, and that's in the last couple of years. Before that, there were none known out there which could potentially harbour life. But so far as we know, here in Bangalore in 2012, there is only one planet in that mind-bending universe which harbours life, intelligence, reflectiveness, and the ability to change itself. And we're it. And this species is that intelligent, able to change itself, reflective component. And so far as we know, we're also the only intelligent node in the universe which is moving to self-destruction. Now, when I spoke about this at the start of this year, the 40th anniversary of the world's first Greens Party meeting on the 23rd of March in Hobart Town Hall, that meeting was held to try to stop the destruction illegally of Lake Pedder National Park. The Murdoch press went into conniptions. I've left some booklets giving the talk out there, but read the back first because it gives you the press that followed. They said he's wacky, he's loopy, it shows he's intergalactic, you know, and so on and so on. Scientists talk about this all the time. In fact, we've just got part of this massive array of radio telescopes that's going to involve New Zealand, Australia and South Africa to look out into space. And amongst the extraordinary new ability of that telescope in a decade or two's time when it's established will be the ability to pick up signals from further out in space than we've ever been able to before. And part of the reason for that is to see if there is any consistent signalling out there which indicates an intelligence behind it. And of course we're inquisitive, so we want to find out. But the question is, why haven't, and I put it this way in Hobart, why haven't the intergalactic phones been ringing? The Murdoch media thought that was loopy. I'll have a bit more to say about the Australian in a minute. But here is one theory, that every time intelligence has evolved in a life-giving planet close enough to a heating star, heating the planet, such as we are in our relationship with the sun. You know, Venus is too hot and close, Mars is getting too cold and far away and so on. We're just right, Goldilocks, and would test planet Earth out and find it to be just right. Every time this has happened, the theory goes, that intelligence has started to interfere with the very biosphere which gave rise to it and wrecked it, and has gone to self-extinction. And maybe that's why no other intelligence is out there contacting us, because every time it's happened before, it's done itself in. And now it's our turn. And here's the question. Do we have not just the intelligence, that's one thing, but the caring and the love and the long-sightedness to be able to pull our belt in, restrain ourselves and think through our grandchildren, if not through people 50, 500,000 years from now, and turn around this awesome, material-driven road to exhaustion of the planet and our ability to live on it. And that's what the Murdoch media pundits don't want to face. The alpha males, if you like, don't want to face the reality that not only can and do individuals, as part of the burgeoning, wonderful variety of life and its increasing ability for creative improvement, meant that individuals in all species die. But maybe there is an end in sight for our own species if we don't change direction. And we're here to change direction. That's what we're about, because we love this planet and we want it to go on. And there's one thing the boffins in the Murdoch media and elsewhere would like us to do, and that's get depressed. Well, I spent 10 years at that back in my 20s and 30s, and I always say to folk, if you're bright enough to know what's going on in the world, and thank God we're not in Syria tonight, you'll get depressed. That is a reasonable, normal reaction to listening to the news. That's how it is. But at the end of that, there is this, and that's all there is, question. Are we going to, as we get, if we are more sensitive and caring, spend our lives depressed and knocked out, while those who aren't dominate what's going on? Or are we going to choose to be, instead, optimistic, inspired by the planet, and determined that we will draw out the best in humanity, in ourselves and in our fellow human? I've never met a human being I didn't love a component of, see something reflective of oneself in, see some positive component in. In fact, human beings are wonderful creatures. And we can draw on the best of that and turn this around, because there is a joyride into the future which is stunning. Our grandparents, let alone take back 100 generations, could not imagine the technology we're about to use here tonight. The building of this hall in 1911 must have been astounding enough to the good folk of Bangalore pre-World War I. But the changes are phenomenal, and so are the dangers that come with it. I noticed today, by the way, in the Sydney Morning Herald, that it's been discovered that nuclear power is now as cheap as solar power. And they're both passing coal power in terms of cost. So I rang Stephen in the foundation office, he's our one employee down in Hobart these days, and said, Stephen, would you write a little letter, I haven't written a letter since I've retired, to the Sydney Morning Herald, and say, well, isn't that great? Nuclear power is as cheap as photovoltaics. However, Al-Qaeda can't hold a city to ransom with a handbag-sized solar panel. And President Obama has said nuclear technology in the wrong hands is the greatest threat facing humankind. I might think it's climate change, but that's, anyway, the biggest nuclear power in the world, thinking about what happens if everybody else gets the power that it's got. We don't have to use that technology. We have clean, green, brilliant alternatives, the first of which is turning off the light switch. Now, I've had some troubles down at Parliament House. I've spent 16 years turning off light switches. When I turned them off in the Tasmanian Parliament, the gents' toilet there had a big array of them. I came in one day and found them sticky taped on. It was driving somebody to distraction. That to go and have a wee, he had, I presume it was he had to actually use the energy of a finger to switch a PowerPoint to on. You know, one of those things. I can tell you that one innovation down at Parliament House, we have got dual flush toilets in this billion-dollar building of 1988, and the biggest building in Canberra and the centre of inspiration for the nation. In the Prime Minister's suite. We Greens have been calling for dual, you know, we went through the drought and the whole works, for dual flush toilets because they're mandated now in buildings throughout the ACT and pretty well everywhere else, but they won't put them in. But they have, as a concession, put them in the Prime Minister's room. I don't know whether they've left instructions or not, but let's hope that it's being used wisely in the Prime Minister's suite. One of the, I wanted to talk about a couple of issues before having a bit of a conversation with you, if that's all right. And I've got some slides here which, what's your name? Juan. Has been good enough to, Paul got them and been good enough to set up. So we'll just have a look. That one's long ways, don't worry about that too much. That's the Styx forest in Tasmania, and I'll come to a story at the end of this which relates to Miranda Gibson, who's sitting up her tree in the Styx forest tonight. Well, she's just over the border in the Tyena Valley tonight. It's been snowing. It was maximum 10 in Hobart on Sunday, and you know, that would have been 4 or 5 degrees out where she was. But these trees in this picture have gone. And they're Eucalyptus regnans, king of the regnans. They're the tallest living entities ever on the face of the planet. One was measured in Victoria, in what's now dairy farmland, in 1886 by a surveyor at 134 metres, which towers 20 metres over the current tallest trees in California. And there's a tree here being measured at 100 metres, and I think there's higher ones in parts that they haven't yet got to. Thanks, Juan. This is a Tassie devil. She was on patrol. I was out on the Tarkine coast looking for Tasmanian tigers in 1973, and we frightened some ducks off a lagoon that's just off to the left there in the sand dunes, and I happened to have my camera up and she came trotting around the beach, and they got a very powerful sense of smell, olfactory senses, and she got to there, but poor eyesight. They're out at night usually, but she heard the ducks and that brought her out of where she was sleeping. And she got to there and sensed that I was there, and I just clicked that photo before she tore off. These animals, as you know, have the terrible facial tumour disease now and may be headed themselves for extinction. No doubt, it's speculated that it could be due to agrochemicals being used in forestry. That's tipped a germ off to have this one of only 3 cases known in biology where cancer is passed on by these animals making contact. And we hope that they're not. One of the things, there's been 6 attempts to introduce foxes into Tasmania, and it's brilliant fox country. I know that from when I used to chase them up at Glen Innes when I was a kid. But it's thought that the Tasmanian devils grab the young foxes, and that's that. So they're our defender against very stupid human beings who introduce foxes, and they're on very low numbers now, so it's a double jeopardy for Tasmania. Thanks, Juan. Oh, that's the Bay of Fires, the pool up there. We walked along there. This is such rich Aboriginal territory in the Sapphire Sea. This is on the east coast of Tasmania. I was just showing some pictures that I've taken down the time. I've got some beauties around here today. I'll show you next time. Thank you. Thanks, Wayne. That's home at Liffey. I was there for 30 years. Paul and I now live south of Hobart at Cygnet. He's got a sheep farm down there, and we've got a place overlooking the sea. The other night, bang crash outside, and we both woke up and thought, there's somebody in the shed. So Paul went out. I bravely had to find my dressing gown or something while he went first. And I met him at the door, and he's coming back and he says, there's a whale off our front door. And we're up on a height, so we went down, and here was this massive whale, and the moon was just setting. It was very dark, banging her flippers on the water and moved slowly along. We ran along for 200 metres to the point, and she stayed there for 20 minutes. And we told Whale Watch there has been no whale sighted there in living memory. And we told Whale Watch, and they put up a light plane next day, and there she was, the other side of it's a very wide, 2 or 3 kilometres at least across the Huon River at that point, as far south as you can get in Tasmania. There she was the next morning. That's a good sign, isn't it? And Liffey's now in the hands of Bush Heritage, which we set up back in 1990, so you're welcome to go there. We go up there, we were up there a week or 2 ago, and sit by the fire. It's snow on the mountain at this time of year, and the lakes are all frozen over. It was minus 15.3 up there on the week before the Franklin was saved. Thank you. Well, that's Denise, who lived down the road in the 1970s. That's Liffey, true Liffey in 1975. We went to Bellingen the other night, and we were late for dinner because the planes were late, and the Gay who's down there cooked us some halloumi. They've got goats. Oh, dear, oh dear, oh dear. There's something to write home about. Anyway, that's Denise. Thank you. And that's Devil Tracks. It's the waltz step. You see, it's 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2. And these are that's the back foot, and that's the front foot. And the thing that points out a devil is a straight line here, and then the toes in a straight line. So you see that on the beach and you know the devil's been along there during the night. Thank you. That's old Jack, that's my old dad. He came and lived in the shed at the back of Liffey. Well, he wouldn't come down to the house. He said, I am not going to invade your privacy. Of course, we had conversations up the back and some kids asked me the other day, oh, what was it like, Dr. Brown, being in jail? And I said, not too bad, because my dad was a policeman, and at Trunky Creek, when I was 6, down near Bathurst, little 23 kids school, my mother cooked Sunday dinner and I refused to eat the spinach. So I ended up in the jailhouse up the back on the hill for an hour. And I said to him as we were sitting there, he was getting close to 80, I took my opportunity, it took a while, and I said, Dad, you know, that was cruel and unusual punishment. Because when I got out of jail, he made me eat the spinach. And anyway, by the time I got to Risdon during the Franklin thing, I was well practised, and it was. We found the people at Risdon who had the least trouble were people who had either been in jail before, and they were I think I was it, or who had been at boarding school. And I was just out there. His shed actually is out of view here. It was that was an extra up the back. Not too much different, I might tell you. I just went up there and I saw the horses coming out and yelled out, "Hey, Dad!" And he turned and he had his walking stick and went bang. And he became a fisherman at Coffs Harbour, a handline fisherman. And I went to Coffs Harbour High School the other day and got reunited with the school. And it was a great experience, because out of the window at that school, one of the times I got sent to the headmaster's office was I was in a complete trance. I was looking out the window instead of and I saw a mother whale flick a baby whale into the air, and down it came. I've never forgotten that. I forgot what happened. I asked the principal down there where the canes were, and she couldn't find them. They were very handy when I was at school, I can tell you. Anyway, that's old Jack. Thanks. And now that's Paul with our pony. That's Paul on the right. Down at the front steps at Liffey. Thank you. And that's Uardia, Blandfordia. We were up at the lighthouse today, and there's Blandfordia out in, but it's obviously a slightly different, well, it looks different. They're smaller and in bigger, rounder clusters, but this one's just in the bush at our place at Randalls Bay last Christmas. Thank you. And I wanted to show you this because I have spoken here before about Recherche Bay, and you were very, very supportive when the headland in the background was threatened by wood chipping, clearfell logging, in the middle of the last decade. And the national campaign helped save that, and Dick Smith came to the rescue with $2 million there to help buy it, because it was private land, and it's now gone into the Tasmanian Land Conservancy's hold and will become part of World Heritage within the next couple of years. We got, Paul and I got Ian Hansen from Sydney, the artist, to come and depict the French visit to Recherche Bay in 1792. They then circumnavigated Australia and came back in 1793. They'd had such a lovely time here. They'd seen the Aboriginal huts but hadn't met the Aboriginal people. And in that's Mount La Perouse on the back, covered in snow. There was at least 5 diaries written of this trip, full of scientists, not soldiers, as the British had aboard when they came in just a decade later. And it was full of scientists, and at a lagoon up to the right here, one morning, 4 of the scientists, well, 2 scientists and 2 sailors slept at night by the lagoon, and they heard a leopard growling in the night, and they built up the fire and got in close. It was February and there was a big frost on. And of course, any of you have heard a brush-tailed possum on heat will know it's very scary, the growling that goes on, and that's what they heard. But the next morning, the two botanists went for a stroll, and they heard people's voices, and they raced back and got the sailors who had their muskets, And then they went up and they looked through the thicket, and here were about 40 people in the edge of the lagoon on the sandy beach. And the scientists got the sailors to put down their muskets, and they revealed themselves and came, and the Aborigines were all lined up, the men in the front and the women and children at the back, and they all put their spears down. And there's this just terrific description of Lavalladiere, the botanist. He was an older gentleman at the time, and the grey-haired Aboriginal man, the leader of the Aboriginal Lailakwani people, moving slowly to each other and then extending a hand, and the left leg of the Aboriginal gentleman going out and grasping each other's hands. And in the following week, these people who were from the other side of the planet on these shores had, with the Lailakwani people, musical interludes, an athletics contest, feasts. And when they were meeting on a beach across the way here, the ships, the Research and the Esperance, West Australian town named after that, were repairing, and they were doing scientific studies. They tried to get to La Perouse but couldn't. They got to the peaked hill in the foreground there. You can see the sea eagle over the top. And they revisited a garden they'd planted the year before. But one of the warriors came with them to the garden, and they didn't want him to. They thought they don't want these people to know where their garden is. But he insisted and came all the way, and when he got there, he pointed out which were their plants and which were the indigenous plants. Knew all about it. And the warriors then told them that they knew they were there. They'd seen them camping there overnight, and they'd been right past the camp overnight. And these French got this, again, a phenomenal feeling that they weren't the people who knew about this land. The Lailakwani were. They knew they were there. They'd been watching them, and they'd been watching. And of course, this extraordinary difference of culture and language. Now, this is a peace field from which the whole planet can learn. People that could not be too different came together in respect for each other and lived with each other. And the Aboriginal people walked 3 days around here to bid farewell to these ships, and there were tears on both sides when they left. And you can see the fires burning. They lit fires as the ships left. And it's a peace field, and it deserves to be known. We quite rightly recognise our war zones and our great battlegrounds. But here is a great peace zone that should, because we've got so much to learn from it. And we got this painting done because there isn't a picture of it, but the diaries are all there. And when you get a picture, then history starts to live. So you can see the Aboriginal men and women. There's another group over on the far side, and the ships are all exactly as they were. There's no tricolour. It's actually Louis XVI lost his head. The French came into port this time, and they of course had no idea about that. But there's a windmill on the back there. We thought it was for ventilating the ships, but in fact it was for grinding wheat. And the French then sailed off to go again up past New Zealand and up to Indonesia, where the Dutch then captured the ships because the revolution had occurred, and the Dutch were on the side of the monarchy in France. But the massive amount of scientific data was later given back to the French under the influence of Sir Joseph Banks in Britain. And the first book of botany in Australia came out of Paris in 1800 due to the botanists on this ship. It wasn't in English, it was in French. And many of the blue gums, the Blandfordia, the heathland, many of the plants that we now know have French names because of this great event. Thank you. Now, this is Paul and I and Miranda Gibson. Miranda's up a tree near the Styx Valley on the Tennant Valley. She's 60 metres up, that's 20 stories, and she's been there for 7 months because they were coming to log, and they got right next to her tree. Paul, have you got the phone, please? And they were, and she's been up the tree, and she's just such a wonderful human being. She's centred, she's strong, she's courageous, and she's not coming down. And I said to her, but Miranda, yes. Now, they've had snow, and heavy snow on the weekend, and I haven't spoken to Miranda since that. We took her up. Can we have a look at the next picture? That's me going up the tree. Terra is with a capital T, being hauled up on a rope. But Paul and I went up. She's had some other... Her mum went up for 4 days. And it's very scary. It's a long, long way up there. Next one, thank you. And that's us up there, and Paul baked a cake, which you can see down here. You can see all the rope used to haul us up, and there's the side with rainforest going up the mountain, and Miranda Gibson. Next one. Oh, we're back to that. Well, why don't we? We'll just see. She might be asleep. Let's see. Hello, Miranda. This is Bob.
Hi, Bob. How are you going?
I'm going very well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, yeah.
I hear you've had some snow.
Yeah, not today, but I have had snow recently.
Yeah.
But today, well, right now it's such an amazing night. The moon's out, and yeah, the stars are out. It's amazing.
Well, it's not the only thing that's amazing down there, Miranda. I'm in the Bangalow Hall, and the place is full of people. And we've just been looking at pictures of you and I and Paul up that tree with that cake. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I hope we didn't wake you up.
No.
Thanks, Miranda. I'm just telling everybody what a great job you're doing for the forest there and the wildlife. And thank you. All strength to you. You've got a lot of supporters here as you continue your vigil, because you've said you're not coming down until they protect those forests, haven't you?
Yeah, that's right. Yep. Yeah, definitely gonna stay up here until the forests are protected.
Thanks, Miranda. Thanks, everybody. Good night. See you, Miranda.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. People say, why am I an optimist? I know Miranda. Isn't that great? And, you know, she's had a lot of trials while she's been up there, but there she is. Miranda, I think, is 29 or 30, and she's a teacher. She's done a law degree. First question every journalist says, are you on the dole? Well, no, she's not. And of course they then want to know about her toilet arrangements, and she explains it the same as for the rest of us. She disposes of it thoughtfully. She's got people who send her up food, but she spends most of her days out there and her nights by herself. And so I feel just inspired by Miranda. And yeah, she's... sorry? No, the logger came out to protest about her protest. He got replaced in 2 days by 2 people in a big truck who came out to help support him. They lasted 2 days. They were driving out as we walked in to see Miranda, so they lasted 4 days. She's been there 7 months. And good on her. The talks on forests may well protect those forests in the coming months. It'll be our job to see it goes into World Heritage instead of into the garbage of the wood chip industry. And hopefully she can come down. But she exercises. She's got her routine is great. She's healthy. She's sparkly, as you can see there. And as I say, I'm lucky enough. I get around to see such people and get inspired by it. Well, I just wanted to say that after the Writers' Festival here, I'm off to Broome on Saturday, and I'll finish with this. Steve Irwin, the Sea Shepherd ship, has sailed from Melbourne to Port Moresby. It's now headed over the top of the Gulf of Carpentaria and will arrive in Broome on latest reports on Sunday night or Monday morning. And this is Sea Shepherd, whose captain, Paul Watson, was recently arrested in Germany on a claim for extradition by Costa Rica because 9 years ago he used one of these ships to intervene on a illegal Costa Rican shark fishing operation in Guatemalan waters. A bit complicated, but Costa Rica stands itself up as one of the world's great environmental governments, and they haven't heard the last from me yet of this process where he was held under arrest in Germany, $300,000 bail, and report to the police every morning. This is a person who's put himself on the line with those gallant Sea Shepherd crews to get between the whales and the grenade-tipped harpoons of the bloody Japanese whaling factory ships and whale chasers in our Antarctic waters, in the World Antarctic Whale Sanctuary off Antarctica, while our governments have done nothing year after year after year. And they've saved thousands of them. From last year, the Japanese didn't get half their quota of 1,000 minke whales, with some humpbacks thrown in, because of Captain Paul Watson. He's now disappeared because what we thought was the case, Tokyo has now called for his extradition from Germany as well. And so what would happen is he would be taken to Japan and jailed for many, many years for intervening on their harpooning of the helpless, warm-blooded cousins of ours in the oceans off Antarctica. So I don't know where he is. He yesterday or the day before, you'll see it on the Sea Shepherd website, put out a letter explaining his fears about that. I followed with a press release calling on the Australian government to give Paul Watson asylum in Australia, to announce he would have asylum here because of the way in which he's protected our whales. Of course, they're very reticent to do anything, whatever. And I spoke to Joe Sinclair, the Sub-Minister for the Attorney General's office, his office. I didn't get to speak to him, of course, just before I came here tonight, to explain that they would get a lot of support if he was given asylum. He's broken no international laws, except get in the way of this Japanese whaling fleet, which is doing the destruction. I don't know what's going to happen there. What I do know is that in his absence, I've taken on the lead of the mission to go to the biggest whale nursery on the planet, where there's currently 13,000 humpback whales off the Kimberley coast, off our own shores. And many, many hundreds of those now have calves, and many more will calve in the warm waters off the Kimberley coast in the coming weeks. And what do they want to do in our own waters with these, the biggest nursery for this magnificent fellow species of ours? They want to put the world's biggest gas factory on shore 60 kilometres north of Broome at a place called James Price Point. There's a picture of it on the front of that Greens magazine newsletter that I saw here. And we've had some posters sent up, but they haven't arrived for tonight, so you'll be able to get those, I'm sure, through some way or other. Please put one up if you can in your staff room or wheresoever to draw people's attention to this beautiful place. This gas factory is proposed by Woodside, Australia's preeminent gas and coal getter-outerer, and they want to bring gas from 420 kilometres offshore onshore through a pipe, which will require dredging through the corals of the offshore area onto James Price Point, which is a living Aboriginal site of history, and their own definition. I've walked with the Aboriginal men there, the Gularabaloo people, and they've taken me to the men's places, and I've seen where they've been making stone tools. And you can actually see on the cliff top the round place where men have sat for centuries and centuries. Down the way is the women's birthing place, and I was just told about it, but you can't go there, of course. But the songlines, their history comes out of that coastline. And there are the imprints of the Emu man god who came down and named the coastline and gave it its lore, L-O-R-E. And those songlines go from the sunset coast to the sunrise coast in one way or another. That's here, right across this continent. And the Emu man, you can see the 3 footprints across the shore. And he's now up there next to the Southern Cross, which is directly above us at the moment, next to Scorpio. And if you look next to the cross itself, you'll see a round, dark head shape. That's his head. And if you look, it takes right down almost to the horizon. You can see the one arm out of the emu and the whole shape of the body. So now every time I look at the sky, I don't see the stars in that neck of the woods. I see the dark shadow of the Emu man. In 1935, some Girl Guides off at Broome discovered big prints on the shore, and they excited scientists hurried up there, and a alternative view of what these prints are has excited the whole of the world scientific community, because this is where dinosaurs walked 130 million years ago. And amongst the dinosaur prints is one that's trod, boom, 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 and these go for hundreds of yards, and in fact they're scattered for 200 kilometres along that coast, 1.4 metres across each footprint. And fortunately, like many greenies, they were herbivores. But these dinosaurs were more than 30 metres long, and the biggest living things ever to move on the land, next to the whale nursery with the biggest living things ever to move on the planet. And they want to put a gas factory right across the middle of where these tracks go up the coast. And there's a new scientific paper coming out at the end of this month which will further add to the remarkable story. It's the only place in the world where dinosaur prints, as we see them, have given rise to Aboriginal traditional history and lore and their sense of the universe, and they're fighting to stop the world's biggest gas factory being stuck on top of that. The gas factory can go down the coast, could even be built at sea. I don't think they need it at all. But in Timor-Leste, poorest country in the Southeast Asia, Woodside is developing the Greater Sunrise gas field, and Timor-Leste wants them to process the gas ashore to help give it jobs and its economy a kick along, and Woodside's refusing. It's going to build it out at sea there. But on the Kimberley coast, the Aboriginal people don't want them to build it ashore, and it's insisting on coming ashore because this is a rich, wealthy country and it can have fly-in, fly-out workers and who knows. Well, the people of Broome don't want it. Since the police arrived, Premier Barnett, who's very like Premier Grey in the Franklin days, the West Australian Premier sent up a plane load of police recently, and they had a phalanx of, and I'm a policeman's son, don't forget. I very much respect the job that the police have to keep the peace. However, sometimes they get used politically for the wrong thing. And they moved in ahead of Woodside's machinery to do some preliminary work, and for $1 million taxpayers' investment, they managed to arrest 2 grandmothers. And the people of Broome will really now realise that that place, which has got such a wonderful ambience, is a place to go and enjoy traditional culture and Cable Beach and all the things that Broome has, is going to be turned into another industrial mining town, and they don't want it. So we're going round, the Steve Irwin's going round, it'll arrive Sunday night, and from Tuesday, Monday, it's going to be welcomed by the Gularabaloo people, and from Tuesday it'll be taking people out to see the whales off in this nursery in this place where there should be no gas factory. I hope that if you get the opportunity, you'll talk about that one. I know that you've got the LNG plague descending on this area as well as elsewhere in Australia, and I wish you all strength with that. But you can see that with Paul Watson out, I can fill a slot there for a short while for this hugely important mission to Broome in Western Australia. I have no intention of going home and lying down and sort of reading a comic, if such things exist these days. Although I have been given an iPad. I've never used a computer in my life, ever. I did learn. Sorry, Paul. I had 10 staff, all of whom used it. Now I've got Paul, and we're loaded with emails. But I was given an iPad, and funny thing was, I did learn typing when I went to London in 1970, and I tried the iPad out the other night. You press the thing down there, and up comes a screen, and you can press a button down there, it disappears again. Very different to the Remington typewriter I learnt on. But all the fingers worked. You know, it's just the same. QWERTY and so on, and away we went. So I'm a bit dubious about getting too much caught into this. However, you can find Miranda at observatory.org. OBSERVER tree, one word, .org. If you want to send Miranda a message and or ask her what is she on the dole or whatever, you can do it on observatory.org. Sea Shepherd you'll find very easily by the usual methods, and I hope you are able to at least talk to the local politicians. We've sent an invitation to every MP, every federal MP in Australia to come up to Broome and come out and see the whales before they make a decision. The final decision has to be made by this time next year by the Board of Woodside. The chair of the board had said he'd see me, but he wrote just this week while we were on the road to say he won't anymore. Now he's heard that I'm going on the ship to have a look at the whales. I mean, oh well, he's certainly got his limits of... he wanted to give me a lecture, no doubt, on how good Woodside's project is. And I wanted to talk to him about how good whales are, but he was frightened by that prospect, I guess. And if you speak to your MP, I know you do about the local issues and what a beautiful place this is to be protecting, and how important it is that we all look after our local region. But if you can put in the words for the whales and the Gallarrivulu people, that would be great. Ask your local MP, did they get the letter? Are they coming over to Broome? If not, will they go before they make the federal government, the Minister for the Environment, makes a decision on this, or write to the Prime Minister or the Minister for the Environment or the Leader of the Opposition, and same with Miranda up the tree. Meantime, I'm going to enjoy the next couple of days here. I just, of course, love being here. I find, well, it's so different to being in the Senate, I can tell you. And it's very lovely. And I've had quite a few people say hello in the streets around, and I'm looking forward to the next couple of days. And to being green, being optimistic, being long-sighted, and just seeing the huge potential we have to make this planet work right off into the future. And when we put a smile on our grandkids' faces because they look back and said, oh, you changed things to make sure we had a happy life, you can see them smiling, well, you start smiling yourself. It's a wonderful resonance. And I'm all about smiling, happiness, being optimistic, and standing up to the so-and-sos who are doing the wrong thing. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Bob. But we haven't finished with Bob yet. We're going to have a 15-minute
break and do some star jumps and get the heart and blood pumping again. We have got some more food and some drink. I'd also really implore people, all the candidates for the election coming up in 5 weeks are going to be near a table to the side. We'd love your signatures to volunteer, to let a drop, to let us put a core flute in your front yard. We'd love any donations. We have raffle tickets for sale. And in 15 minutes or so, we will have Bob again with our Mayor Jan Barham having a very cosy chat here, and we're all invited. So we're only just starting, so please do some star jumps, move around a bit, give each other a hug as a way to keep warm, and we'll be back again in 15 minutes. Thank you again, Bob.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.